Well, from Spring Hill, Tennessee, Joel Johnson is a husband and father of two who is excited about sharing his faith journey, living a life that really is remarkable in light of how it started. Joel.
I know. It's great to be here with you this morning.
We're going to start with an ashes to beauty story, aren't we?
Yes, it's fitting for Christmas. I mean, a night of crisis. There was no room in the inn. Imagine going to the hospital and them turning you away saying, sorry, no room in the hospital for you to have your child. Night of crisis was the greatest night of celebration. And
God can do it again and again.
He can, and that's what he's going to do with this Connecticut, this painful tragedy we're experiencing. We can know that out of crisis, God takes all things, even evil things, and turns it for good for those who love him, are called according to his purpose. And my story started out the same way, you know, born into a family. My parents were in the ministry.
Really?
They're in the ministry.
Your father?
They met at Bible college. 10 years later, first year of my birth, in an adulterous situation, there was a divorce. My father had a total turnaround. He joined a biker gang, started selling drugs. I mean, just complete, it's like a Lifetime movie. It's my Lifetime movie. And my mom raised us, grew up poor, grew up on government assistance.
This is in California.
This is in California, yeah. And my mom would get remarried to my stepdad. He was an alcoholic, abusive man. And when we left, the very last night I would ever see him, he was threatening to throw me from the second-story window of our home. My mom prayed that night, God, just let him fall asleep. Don't let me fall asleep. He passed out, and the next morning he went to work. My mom woke me up, woke my older brother up, put us in the back of our car, and we drove up into the hills of Santa Cruz.
You just ran away.
Yes, we had to. She left her work. We left everything. She didn't tell anyone where we were going, none of our family, because he would look for us. So we lived up in the mountains for a while, and then moved down to a city called Woodland, California. We were there for 6 months. My mom thought she saw his truck, and we packed everything up again.
So you must have known as a child what it was like to live in fear.
Absolutely. Yeah, fear of telling people even my past, fear of telling people who I really was or where I came from. All of those things were frightful. But love, and perfect love, when you encounter him, Jesus, casts out all fear. And that's the story of my life. It's hard times in school, not being able, I was in special classes, they'd take me out of normal classes, to graduating college with almost a 4.0, graduating from law school, and going beyond. God takes ashes of our life, and if we'll trust him with it, he takes our ashes and he makes beautiful things from the dust of our life.
Your mom got involved with a church and forced
me to go. I'm like, Mom, I'm not going to church camp. This is where she forced me to go. I'm not going to church camp. She's like, Esma, church camp. So she forces me to go, and I end up having an encounter with Christ, and it would forever change my life.
He became your hero.
He did.
Jesus Christ.
It was a revelation of him that caused a revolution in my life, and it's never been the same since. So.
Wow, and what God has done with your life. I was asking my daughter, I said, did you hear Joel at Acquire the Fire? 12 years.
12 years. I started when I was 23, speaking in front of hundreds of thousands of young people. Incredible favor. And 12 years later now, I feel like he's called me to launch out on my own. So here I am. I think it's a great place to be at Huntley Street to do that. So. And
what a mentor you've had in Ron Luce.
He's a great
founder of Teen Mania and, of course, Acquire the Fire. God had a plan for you out of what looked like a horror movie.
Yeah, and it's true. And part of the story and the joy of it was meeting a beautiful lady in my path of ministry. I was traveling. I had been to 20 countries around the world. I had been speaking, and I met a young lady by the name of Casey, and I fell hopelessly in love just very shortly thereafter.
Now, before we tell about this very intentional romance, this is another young person who shouldn't have turned out so well.
Yeah, Casey, she had, I think, an even rougher story. And hopefully sometime she'll be on to share.
Bring her with you next time.
Yes, yeah. Well, she's my better half anyways. You know, I married up, so I try to show her off as much as I can. She's smart and wise, and loving, amazing. Has worked in the Mother Teresa Calcutta homes for the dying and destitute in Calcutta before I met her. So she has a heart for the broken, the poor.
But lots of brokenness herself that
But lots
needed
of
healing.
brokenness. And isn't that where we find our joy and our strength, is when we go and serve. When you fear or you are timid about something or you're broken, one of the best ways to find healing is to focus not on yourself anymore, but to focus on others, and we find our healing. I thought with Paul that was amazing with the little ear app he had, and I thought it was so interesting because when you read, when a stutterer and an unstutterer read together, the issue is whole. And I think it gives new context to Christ in John 17 when he says, just as I and the Father are one, I pray you would be one. Because as we come together, we actually find wholeness. We find our healing. And I think that's a beautiful example of it.
You know, some of the commentary yesterday about this shooter and all of the shooters is that they isolate themselves. That's the first warning sign. And then typically the violent games on the internet. But it's not good for man to be alone.
No, it's not.
We need one another.
No, we do. We cannot, no man or woman is an island. And God made us to be one. And that's the promise. He will eventually bring us and make us one. That's the good news. One with God and one with each other. And that's our hope for Christmas. This is the hope of the Messiah, is that peace would come to the earth, that there would be joy in the world, and that joy will be made complete once He's done that work. And we see it progressing, and I pray God would speed that day. Now,
neither of you nor Casey, had a great model of what marriage or anything leading up to it should be, but you made brilliant choices.
Well,
I think
you.
Hard choices.
Yes.
This was very intentional, and you will have to read the book, The Divine Matchmaker by Joel and Casey. They wrote this together. But we have some beautiful pictures, and I just need you to let us get inside your head.
Okay.
And you've got to tell at least one of the cute stories.
Okay, I'll do it quickly. I know we have limited time. But,
about 4 minutes.
Yes. When I was getting ready to propose to Casey, I thought, okay, I want her to never doubt that it was my whole intention. It wasn't a side thought. I wanted to marry her, and I knew it was time. You have to read the book to figure out all the details of that. But so I had told her, she was coming out to meet my family. I told her, hey, bring a nice dress. I want to take you out somewhere nice when you come to California. So friends and I went down to Santa Barbara, and we were hanging out down there, and I took her out to eat during that time. And I brought her to the Four Seasons Hotel and Restaurant right there on the beach. And I said, I have some gifts for you. And so I gave her a card, and she opened it up, and there was on the front of the card was a picture from Jack Vetriano. It's called The Missing Man. There's two women there, and one woman has a man with her and one doesn't, and thus she's looking for the missing man. And she opened the card and she said, Joel, this is my favorite painter of all time. This is amazing, this Jack Vetriano stuff. And she said, my very favorite painting by him is a painting called Dance Me to the End of Love. It's a woman in a white dress dancing with a man in a tuxedo. And I said, well, I happen to have another gift for you. And she's like, really? And so inside of this package, she opened up this next gift I gave her, and it was the very painting she described.
You clever lad.
And she said, how did you know this? I'm like, well, I had a great quiet time. No, I'm just, me and God are like this. And actually, she had mentioned about 6 months earlier, and I had taken some notes.
You were taking notes.
Oh, well, she was definitely the joy of my life, and I didn't want to stop hanging out with her forever. I wanted her to be in my life. And so from there, I said, well, I have another gift for you. And I gave her a box with a simple white dress in it. And I said, we're going to have to go to the back of the restaurant. I have another gift back there for you. And while she went back there, she met one of our friends who went with us, and she got changed into the dress. I had a friend run out a tuxedo to me that I had rented, put it on really quickly. She came out, and a few minutes later, I felt her hands on the back of my shoulders. I turned around, and there standing before me was the most stunning woman in this simple white dress. I said, well, hey, I'd love to take a walk with you on the beach. We went down the beach and walked down into a cove. I had some rose petals strewn down there, a blanket, and we danced on the beach just like the man and the woman.
Oh. Oh, we have to show how this all resolves. Just run those pictures because we need to see something beautiful.
There's the Four Seasons right there, and yeah, we'll just
Gorgeous.
quickly
Paradise.
go. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Oh,
setting
this
of
is where the
romance.
wedding.
No, this
Nope.
is where the proposal
that's the
happened.
proposal.
Yes, right there in that restaurant, right there. There, we took a cruise. Later, we flew to San Francisco that day. We took a cruise under the Golden Gate Bridge, and it was. There we are dancing that night. We were still in our white dress and tuxedo. There's our
the
wedding. Yeah, and look at that gorgeous bride right there.
And today you have Lincoln, who is 3,
Yes.
and Reagan Grace, a little girl named who's 1.
Yes.
But they're both presidential names. I don't know where
Yeah,
you're
there's
headed.
high expectations, I guess, on them.
Well, talk about high expectations. Here's what Ron and Katie Luce say. If you want an awesome, wholesome, over the edge, out of the box, better than you could ever imagine relationship and marriage, read this book and do what it says. Guess what? It's at our e-store. Do you know about our e-store? You can connect with us right away and get your copy. Crossroads.ca or 1-800-265-3100. You are just a brilliant man, and we haven't even had time to talk about Expedition.
Yes, it's
Your
a men's
new
retreat.
adventure,
Yeah.
men's retreat.
People can
Men
find
need
about
to talk.
it. Yeah.
Ooh, will you come back?
JoelJohnson.org. I'd love to. It'd be my pleasure.
Bring Casey, maybe.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, there's more about the romance we could unpack. Thank you so much
My
for all
pleasure.
you're doing.
Thank you, Moira. Appreciate it.